Good morning, all. I'll call the meeting to order. I assume we're online live. Okay, thank you. Okay, first order on the agenda today is approval and updates to the agenda for today's meeting. Any motions to approve the agenda? Dan moves approval of the agenda for the August 13th, September 10th, 2024 meeting. All those in favor? Carried. Next, we will talk about the August 13th meeting and the minutes that were received from everyone. Any questions, concerns, discussions, motions? Michelle moves approval of the minutes from the August 13th, 2024 meeting. All those in favor? Carried. First, for consideration today is development application 24/159. Home-based business. Is there a representative for that here today? Would you take the chairs up front, please, you and whoever else is with you? So there, when you're asked to speak, there's a button on the bottom. I would be your left side there. You just push that, and it will bring you live. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Reed Crapo. And this is my son Daniel, and my wife and I officially own the acreage.
Thank you. Okay, so again, this is application 24/159. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application is for a home-based business major. It's located at number 10, 7125 Old Trans Canada Way Highway. The zoning is Country Residential District 2, and the proposal is to operate a landscaping company as a home-based business major and the placement of one storage container. The applicant is requesting approval from the MPC for operating a landscaping company as a home occupation major. An 8x40-foot storage container associated with the proposed home-based business is proposed on the side as well. The property is situated in a multi-parcel Country Residential 2 subdivision along Old Trans Canada Highway, approximately 291 meters south of the Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railway track and 345 meters south Highway 1. The existing development on the site consists of a residence and shop. As detailed in the submission, the applicant is proposing to have 3 off-site employees. The applicant is also proposing to keep business vehicles parked on the property. These vehicles will include 2 tandem trucks, 1 single axle truck, 4 trailers, an excavator, skid steer, mini skid steer, and attachment for this equipment. Storage would include pavers, gravel, and topsoil, usually in amounts required by jobs. The applicant also states that the hours of operation will be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, with occasional operations on Saturdays. There will be no customers visiting this site, and all work will be done off-site. Under Land Use Bylaw 22/09, in the Country Residential 2 District, a home-based business major is a Class 2 discretionary use requiring approval from the MPC. The general purpose and intent of the Country Residential District 2 is to provide for low-density country residential development and limited agricultural pursuits in Cypress County. A home-based business major is defined as an occupation, trade, craft carried out by the occupants of a dwelling as a use secondary to the residential use of the building or parcel. Home-based business major may have more intrusive activities that may impact the surrounding community with greater on-site employees and or visitors daily, and activities that may extend into outdoor areas of the parcel. Section 12.194 of the Land Use Bylaw allows a single storage container to be placed on a CR district, in the CR District 2 as a discretionary Class 1 use. Storage container must meet the required setbacks in the CR2 district. The proposed 8x40-foot storage container is proposed to be 50 meters from the north property line, which exceeds the 3.5 meter setback requirement in the CR2 district. The storage container looks new and is painted gray. The 320-foot storage container is under the total building area of 2,400 square feet for a single accessory structure. The total building area of all accessory buildings on the site is 2,720 square feet, which is under the maximum allowed in the CR2 district. The equipment is to be stored on site in an organized manner. The 8x40 storage container will provide some screening to the parking area for the equipment. The equipment will not be visible from the internal service road for the subdivision. Other residences in this subdivision have outdoor storage, and it's common with the character of the subdivision. In accordance with Section 2.44 of the Land Use Bylaw, the MPC may waive or vary development standards, notwithstanding that the proposed development does not comply with the bylaw. If, in the opinion of the MPC, the development will not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring properties. Under the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan, the Country Residential District 2 zone property is located within the future commercial industrial area of the Tri-Area IDP. The intent of the area is to provide for the orderly development of industrial and compatible commercial uses that may occur in large parcels. The application has been circulated to the town of Redcliffe for comments as required by the Tri-Area IDP. We referred the application to some internal and external agencies, Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors, indicated that the proposed development would not cause any concern for ongoing highway operation or future highway expansion. And the ATEC issued an exemption for a permit for the development listed above, but they have to meet local regulations. Public Works, Utilities and Roads had no comments. And from Engineering, we received no comments at the time of writing this report. And the same with Town of Redcliffe and CPKC, we received no comments from them. So our recommended motion is approval for 24-159. Conditions 1 through 7 are standard conditions. Conditions 8 and forward are unique to this application. So basically, number 8, no signage will be permitted without prior approval. So if a future sign is wanted, a development permit would be needed. And number 9, subject to keeping a maximum of 2 tandem trucks, 1 single axle truck, 4 trailers, an excavator, 1 skid steer, and 1 mini skid steer to be stored parked on the west side of the existing residence as shown in the attached site plan. Any increase in fleet relating to the business or additional employees must be submitted and approved by the Development Officer, Municipal Planning Commission. Hours of operation are approved, that's number 10, approved Monday to Friday 8 to 5, with occasional operations on Saturday between 8 and 5 p.m. Number 11, the applicant is responsible to ensure adequate parking is available on the property to prevent all parking, stacking, and unloading on the internal service road of the subdivision. And number 12, it's subject to annual review. For the MPC, there is an alternate motion. Reviews because it doesn't meet the purpose and intent of the Country Residential 2 district in the Land Use Bylaw. And I did take some photos of this site and surrounding area. So, okay. That one's a little bit smaller than.
Just a little wonky there.
Oh yeah, no, so that's what the driveway to the site looks like at the top there. We're looking southwest, that's the house. Then if we go down to the next one, that's the shop. It's associated with the business. And then the next picture, we're looking northeast, and you can see the storage container off in the distance there and the neighboring property over there. And then west, this is, there's a truck there. The next picture, that's the storage container that's proposed. It's gray, looks new. And then if we look in the next picture, we're looking north, there's the storage container again. And then the next picture, we're looking southwest and we have an open field. And then we're looking south and again, basically an open field. Then we're looking east. This is in the subdivision's service road. We're looking east at the adjacent property, and you can see some outdoor storage there. Then we're looking west. We're going north up the service road, and this is adjacent properties. We're looking, I'm at a property just north of this site looking west. And then the next picture, this is right at the entrance to the subdivision. So as you can see, the character of the subdivision, outdoor storage is common. So, and again, that's the entrance, the lot at the entrance of the subdivision does have a lot of outdoor storage. However, the proposed landscaping business, the storage will be a lot more neater and more orderly. And let's see, that's the end of my photos. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Crapo, would you like to speak to your application and the conditions presented? No, I think you press it till it lights up. There you go.
I think Aaron has done a nice job of summarizing the intent of the landscaping company and where everything lies. And it is a nice acreage for us, and I like the fact that the business is behind the trees and basically not even seen. So I think she's represented us fairly well.
Okay. Any concerns with your neighbors? Did you discuss this potential use with them?
You have? Yeah. Dan has, so I'll have him
Okay.
speak to that left side.
Hi. Does that work?
Yeah, you're on. Yeah. When it's lit. When it's lit.
Okay, there we go.
Push it once.
There we go. Yeah, actually, I've many of the neighbors I've actually grown throughout the city with landscaping. The neighbor right beside us, I landscaped his yard in a previous home. We go over regularly for visits and things like that, so it was pretty cool. The neighbor beside them has raises race horses, so I've helped her on a couple occasions already. We get along quite well. And the neighbor beside that, I grew up in Brooks with working for her family business. So it's nice. It's a nice little area for us.
Okay, thank you. I'll open the floor to questions from Planning Commission. Nigel, go ahead.
Just wanted to get confirmation. So in the background, it states that basically you're going to be storing material, basically for the ongoing jobs that you're actually working on. So there's no intent to keep like a longer term inventory on site then, is that correct?
No, that is correct. The materials are generally in and out within a week's time. There's a couple of random pavers and things like that of stock, but the intent is not to store stock or carry an inventory by any means. It's usually a transitional thing that and yes, no bulk materials for it to be acquired there.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, I think that's our biggest fear is having we've got some other ones in the county where they're storing all their old concrete and stuff like that. Next thing we know, we've got a heck of a mess going on. So I know we don't have it in here for not having any storage of that stuff, but maybe we should put it in. I don't have a problem with it being there. I just don't want to see a bunch of old concrete and great big piles of stuff that is blowing around and everything else that's going on out there from it.
So are you moving an amendment to conditions, or are you discussing it?
Guess I was discussing it with the group here, and then we can build something off it. Maybe I'm the only one with an opinion against that, but we do have some other acreages in town where they've stacked up old concrete, and we know it's a mess, and we can't get in and do anything about it because we didn't put it in at this point in time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something we should be dotting our I's and crossing our T's on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's beneficial for you knowing where you're going, and for the county that we're not creating something that's a problem down the road. Go ahead.
Press it again. There you go.
So the intent of this, and talking about what Dan is talking about, keeping remnants or concrete product and stuff like that. I don't crush or repurpose anything like that. The one thing that is nice about the area I'm in is I live very close to the Red Cliff landfill. So concrete and products and things like that, I need to actually capitalize or deal with the dispersal, the charges of getting rid of these types of materials. And as I do jobs, I have to be aware of what those costs are incurred. So we manage that very quickly by taking them to the landfills, Red Cliff, Medicine Hat, for instance, and deal with that. Since Aaron has taken pictures of the property, there was a fair bit of, I would say, unorganized remnants from the previous owners, and we've kind of we've been working on tidying and cleaning. There's some old sheds and things like that, and so we've been working on that. Even in there, the confusion or the cluster of things that are there are from moving in and moving out kind of things. So I plan on having a very much, I like organization. I like neat and orderly type things. So that's some of the things that I've been working on as we've moved in here. So the next step, of course, is to make sure that we're all in accordance and whatnot. So that's what we're planning on running, and we don't want a sign. My intent is never to have a. I'm very happy to have a residence with my equipment stored there that I can make sure that's there and it's not stolen or vandalized as I've had in the past.
Okay. So you're not then opposed to a condition restricting storage of materials?
Yeah, I'm not a bulk barn or anything like that. I'm not a depot. I don't have any intent of that. The materials that are stored there either for purpose of utilization within the acreage, or a transitional thing where we have an overage, half a pallet or something like that gets utilized within jobs to come. So that's totally. Or we had some maintenance or something like that, and we had a couple yards of materials a brush that didn't make sense to take to the landfill at that time, and until it accumulates a load or like a smaller, a natural load to go to the landfill, and that's the intent of that is small overages and then hauling and cleaning up as we go. So,
okay. Do we have a standard statement that we could add, or is I would imagine we've done this in the past?
Mr. Chairman, we can add a condition worded something like outdoor storage of soil, other landscaping materials shall be for a limited period. I don't know if that's really, that could probably be worded a bit differently.
Yeah, I don't know if soil's an issue because, yeah, I mean, every acreage has soil. maybe
Waste debris or?
debris. Can we call it debris? Waste debris.
Yeah, landscape.
Temporary storage of waste.
We're not trying to be mean, we're just.
No,
putting it
yeah,
out
we
for
just want to make
future.
sure that this is done right once.
and I think what you're kind of getting at here too is to stock inventories or to have bulk matters in intent of retail type sales is not our focus of any sort. It's we only use our materials as per job, and I can't have materials. I can't run that business. It's not nor do I repurpose it for crushing or anything like that. Whereas some of the other contractors may, the bigger outfits, repurpose their concrete by storing it, and then once they have enough occurred, then they bring a crusher and they fine it and with the purpose of reselling or reusing it within their own bids. That's I don't carry that type of.
It's happened in the past where we allow home-based business, and then next thing you know, there's a storage of, like you said, concrete and crushed concrete and stuff like that, and then the neighbors start to get upset about it, and then it becomes an issue that we have to go in and do enforcement on, which is not ever pleasant.
No,
So if we can get that straight within this permit right off the bat, then away you go, and everybody's happy. So go ahead, Kayleen.
Through the chair, I just had a question of clarification. Is the Planning Commission leaning towards being okay with the temporary storage on the site, or is it the long-term storage that's of concern?
I believe that temporary is fine, right, Dan? And it just, we
temporary
don't
for
want
July is fine.
long-term storage of waste materials.
So perhaps a condition along the lines of there is to be no permanent or long-term stockpiling or storage of landscape materials on the site.
very, very happy with that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Dan
Make
moves it.
that motion with that addition.
Dan moves the motion with amended conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of the permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days of presentation, it will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you can contact the planning staff after today's meeting.
Great.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, next, 10:15, Mr. Silcher and your representative. So this is subdivision application 24CY09. Okay, so please introduce, I know you, Willie, and please introduce the other person involved with this.
I'm Stu Monroe with Monroe Surveys.
Okay, thank you, Stu. Okay, so again, 24CY09. Becky, go ahead.
You bet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So subdivision 24CY09 is located in Ward 8, and it's an agricultural subdivision and consolidation. The owner of the property is Kim Tomey, and the applicant is Monroe Surveys. This is located along Range Road 65, approximately half a kilometer north of Highway 523, on the northwest 2912-6 west of the 4th. And the proposal is to subdivide a 0.19 hectare parcel from an existing parcel to consolidate into the adjacent agricultural title. This application is intended to subdivide 0.19 hectares or 0.46 acres from an existing parcel in order to consolidate into an adjacent agricultural title for the purposes of providing a development area for a family member. The existing parcel is 3.6 hectares or 8.9 acres in size, while the adjacent agricultural title contains irrigation pivots and is 61.4 hectares or 151.1 acres in size. The property is located along Range Road 65, approximately half a kilometer north of 523, and there are no oil or gas wells in proximity to the proposed subdivision. The existing parcel contains a residence, accessory buildings, and a dugout. The applicant has indicated that the intent of the subdivision is to provide a development or building area for the neighbor's family member. Within the adjacent lands, there are 2 established yard sites with multiple farm buildings, corrals, and dugouts throughout the property. Both the proposed subdivision area as well as the agricultural title gain direct and immediate access from Range Road 65 from separate existing access approaches. While the proposed subdivision and consolidation would result in irregular property boundaries, the adjacent landowner that is seeking to purchase the proposed lands has provided an explanation for the subdivision location. He has indicated that they have chosen this area to build a residence due to the proximity of power, gas, and water, and higher ground. In addition, the proposed location does not interfere with the existing irrigation operations. And lastly, the proposed location would allow for the new residence to be accessed via a shared road and approach, and would be from an oiled road rather than gravel. Since the application is intended to consolidate into an adjacent agricultural title, no additional titles are being created. In addition, both parcels have Agricultural District 1 designation. Therefore, a land use amendment is not required. The proposed subdivision lies within the potential growth area of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan boundary. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that maintaining an agricultural land base recognizes the value of agricultural land for sustainable growth and diversification of the agricultural industry, as well as providing an opportunity for expansion for agricultural production in the region. Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority may not require the owner of a parcel of land that is subject of a proposed subdivision to provide reserve land or money in place of reserve land if one lot is to be created from a quarter section of land and is 0.8 hectares or less. Part 2.9 Road Access of the subdivision regulations of the Municipal Government Act states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority to each lot that is created. Part 14, Distance from a highway of the subdivision regulations of the Municipal Government Act states that subject to Section 16, a subdivision authority shall not in a municipality other than a city approve an application for subdivision if the lands that are subject of the application are within 1.6 kilometers of the center line of a highway right-of-way, unless the land is contained within an area structure plan satisfactory to the Minister of Transportation and the proposed use of land is permitted under that plan. Section 2.6 Potential Growth Area of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan states that the intent of the potential growth area is to retain the agricultural use and extensive recreation uses of large parcels in the area while at the same time allowing for some limited country residential and farmstead separation options at a low density over the time frame of the IDP. The further intent is to retain large parcels for economical subdivision for further urban development. Continued agricultural and agricultural support uses within the potential growth area are preferred. Section 4.1.24 Subdivision of the Tri-Area IDP of the Municipal Development Plan states that the county shall follow all applicable policies within the Tri-Area IDP related to subdivision of the lands within the Tri-Area IDP boundary. Section 11.10 Dwelling Units on a Parcel of the Land Use Bylaw 2022-09 states that unless otherwise specified in districts permitting multiple dwelling unit uses, the maximum number of dwelling units on a titled parcel, 80 acres or greater, shall consist of a maximum of one principal dwelling unit and 4 secondary dwelling units or secondary suites. And utility easements may be required between the proposed parcel and the remainder of the agricultural title. So, of course, we circulated the application, and the comments we received back are as follows. Cypress County Finances replied that there is a local improvement of private dust control associated with the property. Planning and Development replied that the proposed subdivision is intended to subdivide and consolidate a portion of the adjacent agricultural title to allow for the sale of land to the neighboring agricultural operator. The application will facilitate the construction of a residence for the neighbor's family member. The proposed location is deemed most suitable by the purchaser due to advantageous location of services, topography, and pivot and wheel move irrigation that is on the property. While the location may be most suitable from a servicing perspective and provides for the least conflict with farming operations, the purchaser should be made aware that the location does not lend itself for subdivision of the residence in the future. The subdivision as proposed complies with Section 2.6 of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan and Section 4.1.24 of the Municipal Development Plan. The Director of Municipal Service replied that they have no comments at this time. Cypress County Public Works replied that they have no concerns. Apex Utilities replied that they have no objection to the proposed subdivision. Fortis Alberta replied that the application does not fall within their service territory, therefore they have no objection. TELUS replied that they have no concerns with the proposed activities. The City of Medicine Hat's Environment, Land and Gas Production Department replied that they have reviewed the subdivision and have the following comments. Surface improvements are not permitted within the City of Medicine Hat pipeline utility right-of-way and within 100 meters of any City of Medicine Hat wellhead unless the landowner applies to and receives approval from the Alberta Energy Regulator and the City for setback reduction. And any ground disturbances or surface improvements within 30 meters of any City of Medicine Hat gas pipeline or within 100 meters of any gas wells will require a crossing or proximity agreement. St. Mary's River Irrigation District replied that they have no concerns with the proposed subdivision or consolidation. If the applicant requires SMERD water for the newly created yard site, they will need to contact SMERD to obtain a household purposes agreement. During the registration process, a consent will be required to be signed by SMERD, and the fee of $250 can be submitted along with the required consent to their office. The City of Medicine Hat Electrical Distribution replied that they have existing infrastructure in the area. The developer or applicant is responsible to ensure all requirements for the city electric distribution are met prior to completing any work in the vicinity of the city's infrastructure. The requirements have been forwarded to the applicant for review. The town of Red Cliff replied that they have reviewed the proposed subdivision and offer no comments. And the City of Medicine Hat replied that the southwest corner of the quarter section is already fragmented, so adding a home for a family member isn't going to affect future growth. In addition, the proposal does not impact irrigated lands or result in additional fragmentation. Even though the situation is unique in that it doesn't fit the IDP policy language in the potential growth area, the city has no concerns. So that takes me to my recommended motion, Mr. Chairman, which is approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the developer is required to consolidate the subdivided 0.19 hectare portion contained within Certificate of Title 191179087 with the adjacent agricultural title contained within the Certificate of Title 011151454. The consolidation is to be registered in conjunction with the registration of the subdivision plan with Alberta Land Titles. And number 2, our standard condition, the developer is required to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, or agreements, which are to be registered as a requirement for any affected utilities to Cypress County prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And that's my report.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Silter or Mr. Monroe, do you have anything to add to this, or do you have any opinion on the conditions as presented?
No, I think it should all be okay.
Okay. Open the floor to discussion. Okay, Lloyd moves. Approval. Aren't you eager? Yeah, look at this. It's not even close to lunch. How about that? Okay, so any other discussion before I accept this motion? Okay, so the motion on the floor, Lloyd moves approval of subdivision application 24/CY09 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting conditions which were previously discussed. The county will now mail you a copy of your subdivision approval. You are advised to begin working towards completing the necessary conditions and making arrangements to have the subdivided area surveyed if you haven't already done so. You have 1 year from the subdivision's approval date to have met all of the approval conditions and to have the survey plan submitted to Alberta Land Titles by your surveyor for registration of the, well, it's not really a separate title, but amendment of the title. If you have any further questions, you can contact the planner after today's meeting to discuss them. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next, quick fire. Next application's in via Zoom. Is that applicant available at this time?
164, 165? Sorry, 165, 166.
Yeah. So we're, first development application we're dealing with is 24/165.
Okay.
Okay, so again, 24/165. Aaron, please go ahead if the applicant is there and hearing us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposal is to erect a meteorological tower. The applicant is Terrigen Canada, care of Arcadis Professional Services, and the owner is Ian Good. And the site is located at the southwest 3-10-6 west of the 4th, and the zoning of the site is Agriculture District 2. The applicant is requesting approval from the MPC to erect an existing temporary meteorological tower for wind monitoring on an agricultural parcel. The property is located about 13.8 kilometers southeast of Seven Persons. The meteorological tower originally received MPC approval as DP 05/177 back in 2005 for a period of 4 years. The original approval expired in 2009, and the applicant is requesting to reapply for the existing Met Tower as a temporary structure. The Met Tower height is 60 meters, which is 196 feet. The height and the location of the tower on the site will remain unchanged, and the existing roadways and approaches will be used to access the tower. The applicant has indicated that maintenance will be done on these towers approximately 4 times a year. The purpose of the Met Tower is to collect wind data to assist future development of a wind farm. The data provides the engineer the most efficient locations of tower placements, and the tower is proposed to be in operation until 2027. In the land use bylaw, there's no specific uses or regulations pertaining to meteorological towers when an existing wind farm does not exist. Therefore, the proposal would fall under other uses under the Agriculture 2 district. Other uses is a Class 2 discretionary use in the land use bylaw and must be considered by the Municipal Planning Commission. The general purpose and intent at the Agriculture District 2 is to protect and enhance the agriculture production, products, goods, support services, and compatible land uses. There were no referrals for this application. The recommended motion is to approve. Conditions 1 through 6 are standard conditions, and number 7 is specific to this application, and the meteorological tower is approved until December 31st, 2027. An application to extend the expiration date for the development permit may be submitted to the county prior to December 31st, 2027. So the alternate motion would be to refuse the application because it doesn't comply with the general purpose and intent of the Agriculture District 2 as stated in the land use bylaw. I did take a picture of the site. Okay, so we're looking north, there's the meteorological tower, and then the gate and the access trail is existing. And as I mentioned before, it's going to be used maybe 4 times a year, so not a lot of heavy traffic proposed. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
First question that comes to mind is, so it expired 15 years ago?
Mr. Chairman, I guess better late than never.
So do we not have a mechanism in place to identify these expired permits and then address them, or is it up to the applicant to?
Mr. Chairman, this one was approved well before my time, so I do believe that we do have tracking spreadsheets, and we also do have our diamond system. So basically, one would have to look for this and find expired Met Towers and ask for applications.
So do we have a process now in place to look at expired ones then to make sure that they don't slip through the cracks like this one did?
Mr. Chairman, yes, we do.
Okay, all right. Okay, would the applicants like to speak to this at this time?
Yeah, we just have a brief summary there. So just for your own information, we have existing lease agreements with all of the landowners on the proposed wind site that allow use of their lands, including the use of and erection of meteorological towers. So wanted to clear that up, that ensure we do have land use approval from the existing landowners. The other piece to mention there is, yes, this is an existing tower. And so in that case, should modifications be required and that the tower needs to be taken down, or maintenance to the extent that the tower needs to be brought down in order to perform that maintenance, updates to meet the county bylaws would be performed. In this case, I believe the tower, because it's existing since 2009 at the time, weather striping or painting in orange and white banners was not a requirement at the time. And so should that requirement, should modifications be required to the tower such that it's brought down, we would be updating that painting as well to be in line with the bylaws.
Okay, thank you. I'll open the floor to discussion from the Planning Commission. Go ahead, Nigel.
I just got one quick question. I'm curious what the lifespan on these temporary meteorological towers is.
For the towers themselves, they tend to be close to 50 years. For the equipment within them, depending on maintenance, that tends to be between 15 to 30 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Michelle moves approval of development application 24-165 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, before I read, well, your development application has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously presented. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The development permit will be advertised in Cypress Courier and newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days, the application will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you can contact the development officer after today's meeting. So now we'll just move straight on to 24/166. Aaron, go ahead with this one.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposal is to erect an existing Met Tower. The applicant is Terrigen Canada, care of Arcadis Professional Services. The owner is Stephen N. Clark. The legal description is the southwest quarter 1, 10-6 west of the 4th, and the land use district is Agriculture District 2, A2. The applicant is requesting approval from the MPC to erect an existing temporary meteorological tower for wind monitoring on an agriculture parcel. Property is located approximately 17 kilometers southeast of Seven Persons. The Met Tower originally received approval in 2007. The applicant is requesting to reapply for the Met Tower as a temporary structure. The Met Tower height is 60 meters, 196 feet. The height and location of the tower will remain unchanged, and the existing roadway and approaches will be used for the existing tower. Relevant legislation, as I mentioned in the previous application under Land Use Bylaw 22/09, there's no specific uses or regulations pertaining to meteorological towers when an existing wind farm does not exist. Therefore, the proposal would fall under the other uses definition in the Agriculture District 2, which is a Class 2 discretionary use requiring consideration from MPC. The general purpose and intent of the Agriculture District 2 is to protect and enhance the agriculture, production of products, goods, and support services and compatible land uses. Again, the recommended motion is approval. Conditions 1 through 6 are standard, and condition number 7 is identical to the previous permit. The meteorological tower is approved until December 31st, 2027. An application to extend the expiration date for the development permit may be submitted to the county. And an alternate motion would be to refuse the tower because it doesn't comply with the general purpose and intent of the A2 district as stated in the land use bylaw. And I do believe I have a photo of this site as well. There we go. So off in the distance, you can see the Met Tower, and you see the access point. And as I mentioned previously, maintenance is done maybe 4 times a year with these towers. So not a lot of heavy traffic. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Would the applicant like to speak to this application at this time?
Just to restate the same conditions as was previously stated on the last application. Should maintenance be required, that would require the tear down of the tower in order to perform that maintenance. Any outstanding bylaws that are not in compliance because of the older age of this tower will be updated at that point in time. As well, we have existing agreements with Mr. Clark for use of his land and as it regards to construction of a wind farm and its associated equipment.
Thank you. Amanda, go ahead.
Something that I wish I would have asked in the last one is just, did we want to put any like decommissioning requirements into this as we have with other projects like the solar? Like if it's not running for any amount of time that they would have to take it down? Not for these ones?
Have we ever done that on any Met towers? I don't think we have. But yeah, it's a good point. But I mean, it's a Met tower's not like a wind turbine that costs $1 million to tear down. Probably pull us over with a tractor.
If I could just mention quickly,
Yeah, go ahead.
so originally, there were 3 towers that were applied for. Tower 5301, which was to the north of these 2 towers, and that has subsequently been removed as a part of this process once we weren't using it. So it is Terrigen's intent that should a Met tower no longer be needed or used, that it will be torn down either from a liability standpoint and the age of the tower, or because it's no longer used or required for the wind facility. So I would just state that there is precedence of us removing these on our own so far.
And yeah, you don't have any concrete pilings or anything like that, so they're probably fairly economical to remove.
Yeah, it's essentially a single steel tower with 4 anchor footings that go in and cables to support it.
Okay. All right.
Approximate time to remove them is about a day.
Okay. All right, anything else? Nigel moves approval of 24/166 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Once again, your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions that were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days of presentation, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you can contact the development officer to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I would, by deduction, I would assume you are Amber. Can you please take one of the chairs up front, please? So this is subdivision application 24/CY10, and you're Amber Hefner? Okay. Becky, take it away, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a Ward 6 agricultural subdivision. As you said, it's 24/CY10. The owner is the estate of Randy Hefner, and the applicant is Ryan Hefner. The location is on Township Road 120, approximately 3.2 kilometers south of the City of Medicine Hat boundary, on the northwest 3111-5 west of the 4th. The proposal is to subdivide a 2.84 hectare parcel containing an existing residence and yard site to create a separate title. This application is intended to subdivide a 2.84 hectare or 7 acre agricultural parcel from an unsubdivided quarter section for the purposes of creating a farmstead separation for the existing residence and yard site. The remainder of the agricultural title contains an irrigation pivot and is 64.5 hectares or 159.59 acres in size. There are no oil or gas wells in proximity to the proposed subdivision. The proposed subdivision area contains an existing residence, a shop, bins, and established trees and bushes. The current water source is a well, which is situated within the proposed parcel area, as well as Westside Water Co-op and St. Mary's River Irrigation District. In addition, the residence is serviced by a septic tank and field. The proposed subdivision gains direct and immediate access from Township Road 120, and the remainder of the agricultural title has an existing access approach from Range Road 60. The proposed subdivision will result in the first title to be taken out of the quarter section. A residence could still be developed on the remainder of the agricultural title. The proposed subdivision is located within the potential serviced commercial industrial area of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan boundary. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural land and to limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. Under the implementation section of the plan, Section 5, Efficient Use of Land, it states that the land use framework promotes approaches to reduce the amount of land that is taken up by permanent or long-term development by utilizing the minimum amount of land necessary. Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority may not require the owner of a parcel of land that is subject of a proposed subdivision to provide reserve if one lot is to be created from a quarter section of land. Section 662 states that a subdivision authority may require the owner of a parcel of land that is subject of a proposed subdivision to provide part of that parcel of land for the purposes of roads, public utilities, or both. Part 2.9 road access of the subdivision regulation states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority to each lot that is created. Section 2.8 potential serviced commercial industrial area of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan states that the intent of the area is to provide a long-term location for highway commercial and light industrial uses where, in the county's opinion, potential exists for servicing with piped potable water and sewer. Since the overall intent of the area is to minimize conflicts with residential uses, residential subdivision is limited to farmstead separation. The Township Road 120 Area Structure Plan states that since that Tri-Area IDP has identified the study area as a potentially serviced commercial industrial area, therefore, in accordance with Policy 2.82, additional residential subdivision shall not be approved in this area and the development of additional residences discouraged. Increasing the residential density in this area will increase the potential for future conflicts. In addition, to reduce the conflict between proposed developments and existing dwellings, a setback or separation distance will be required. County Council established the minimum separation between a residence and any new commercial or light industrial developments within the study area as 200 meters. The separation distance between a residence and a proposed commercial light industrial subdivision or development shall be measured from the closest point of the residence to the property line of the proposed development. Section 4.1.27 subdivision tri-area IDP states that the county, and sorry, this is from the Municipal Development Plan, states that the county shall follow all applicable policies within the tri-area IDP related to subdivision of the lands within the tri-area IDP boundary. And utility easements may be required between the proposed parcel and the remainder of the agricultural title. When we circulated the application, Cypress County Finances replied that there are no local improvements associated with this parcel. Planning and Development replied that the proposed subdivision intends to separate the existing residence and is considered the first parcel out of the quarter. The proposed subdivision complies with Section 2.8, Potential Service Commercial Industrial Area of the Tri-Area IDP, Section 4.1.27 of the Municipal Development Plan, and meets the general intent of the Township Road 120 Area Structure Plan. The subdivision is consistent with other similar approvals that have been granted in the past. Cypress County Public Works replied that the property has a row of trees along Township Road 120 that need to be trimmed back to improve sightlines for exiting the property. It is recommended that the county acquire a right-of-way of 5 meters along the north boundary of the subdivision for future road widening. Apex Utilities replied that they have no objection to the proposed subdivision. Fortis Alberta replied they have determined no easement is required. TELUS replied that they will require a utility right-of-way in order to provide service to this new subdivision development. Please have this requirement added as a condition of approval and have the applicant contact TELUS to initiate a utility right-of-way agreement. The City of Medicine Hat's Environment, Land and Gas Production Department replied that they have reviewed the subdivision application and has the following comments. Please refer to the attached maps displaying the gas facilities that are located within the proposed subdivision. There's also a surface lease at 631.11.5 west of the 4th that gains access through the yard of the proposed subdivision, and these maps have been forwarded to the applicant. Surface improvements are not permitted within the City of Medicine Hat pipeline utility right-of-way and within 100 meters of any City of Medicine Hat wellhead, unless the landowner applies to and receives approval from the Alberta Energy Regulator in the city for setback reduction. Any ground disturbances or surface improvements within 30 meters of any City of Medicine Hat gas pipeline or within 100 meters of any gas wells will require a crossing or proximity agreement. SMERD replied that they have no concerns with the proposed subdivision. If the applicant requires SMERD water for the yard site, they'll need to contact SMERD to obtain a household purposes agreement. The City of Medicine Hat Electric Distribution replied that they have no concerns with the proposal. Equus replied that they have no objections to the proposed subdivision. Equus currently provides electrical service to the Northwest 3111-5 west of the 4th and will need to maintain their existing utility right-of-way. Westside Water Co-op replied that they have no concerns with the subdivision. The curb stop is located within the new subdivision area. The co-op has advised the applicant to contact Cypress County to have the local improvement transferred to the new title if necessary. The town of Red Cliff replied that they have reviewed the proposed subdivision and offer no comment. The City of Medicine Hat replied that a farmstead separation is allowed in this area, therefore they have no issues with the proposal. And Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors replied that Section 18 and 19 are met, therefore no variance is required. The department expects that the municipality will mitigate the impacts of traffic generated by developments approved on the local road connections to the highway system pursuant to Policy 7 of the Provincial Land Use Policies and Section 618.4 of the Municipal Government Act. So that takes me to my recommended motion, and that's approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the developer is required to enter into a utility right-of-way agreement with TELUS. The developer is to provide a copy of the executed agreement to the county prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. Number 2, the developer is required to provide the dedication of a 5-meter strip along the entire north boundary of the proposed subdivided area for the purpose of providing future road widening of Township Road 120. The right-of-way is to be registered by survey in conjunction with the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. Number 3, it is the developer's responsibility to enter into any necessary agreements with St. Mary's River Irrigation District for the supply of water to the proposed subdivision and the remnant parcel. The developer will be required to provide written evidence that the requirements of SMERD have been satisfied prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And number 4, our standard condition is the developer is required to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, or agreements which are to be registered as a requirement for any affected utilities to Cypress County prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Amber, would you like to speak to this application and the conditions presented? Okay. I have 2 issues. More than that, but with this I have 2 issues. Traditionally, we've taken the subdivision along the path where the end gun would continue irrigating the land. It appears here that we will be taking some currently irrigated area out and using a triangular shape instead of a kind of an arcing shape on that southwest portion. I do have an issue with taking out irrigated land for this subdivision. And I think I know why those trees are in there, because it's probably they're irrigated with the pivot right now. Is that correct, Amber?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder to please use our mics.
Okay, yeah, there's a button there you can press on the left side just when you're talking, so everybody
Sorry,
can hear. Thank you.
there were times in the past when my father-in-law was around where he has shut off the end boom so that the trees wouldn't get irrigated. But yes, they do get irrigated by the end boom.
So the potential conflict that exists, as I see it, if say 2 different owners now own the acreage and the irrigated land, there's a point of conflict there that you have an area of the acreage that can be irrigated with the pivot and would normally be utilized as agricultural land that will be then taken out and used as country residential. And I do see the point where you want to put the fence along there because it's probably easier than putting the fence on the inside of the trees. Is that the rationale for including that area?
Right.
Okay. I think our job is to protect the agricultural integrity of the properties, so I do have an issue with that.
Yeah, it is our job, but this has already been taken out. It isn't being used as any kind of, well, it's just trees there now, like there's not anything growing there, so.
Yeah, but trees today, they have a temporary lifespan. Next, when somebody comes in there, wants to grow potatoes, there's a quarter of an acre or whatever it happens to be that's out of production forever.
Yeah, I guess you're correct on that, but I guess it's give and take on everything we do in here too, though, so.
Go ahead, Becky.
Well, I don't know if it makes a difference, and I'm not going to pretend to know much about SMERD, but each parcel will have its own, currently has its own SMERD turnout. So the yard has a turnout and then the remnant. Okay.
Yeah, my issue is the loss of agricultural land, not the turnout itself, and the potential conflict that you have with an end gun that will shoot over. In order to irrigate the rest of the land properly, you need the end gun on there. You can see where it doesn't hit on the east and west boundaries, and then if you look to the north, it's elongated, or sorry, to the corners, it's elongated so that they can irrigate most of the corners. Now, if you go to the Lethbridge County, there's now, and this is one thing that we have to be aware of, the traditional pivots are now having all corner systems on them. So taking these corners out of the irrigated parcels, while it works today with today's pivot irrigation system, the contemporary pivot irrigation usage now in Lethbridge County, Tiber County, and all those other areas is corner systems on these. So we are fragmenting these agricultural properties that could potentially produce more in the future. So that's something that needs to be brought to attention to, in my mind. I would just
I'm more
like
worried
to.
about solar taking out more acres than what this is taking out.
Yeah, I know. I agree. But if you don't pay attention to the small stuff, the big stuff gets away on you too. I would agree that our mandate is to kind of protect the agricultural usage of land, and here I see a part where we could maybe adjust that boundary and keep that land in use. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could maybe make a suggestion, and maybe Becky can wordsmith this for me a little bit. But as part of the subdivision endorsement, so after the subdivision is approved by the Planning Commission, the applicant refines with their surveyor what the specific property boundary is to be. One of the things that we could look at is a condition that administration verify, or the applicant verify with the irrigation district, that no irrigation acres will be impacted as part of the subdivision prior to the endorsement. And if there is a bit of a boundary adjustment that we need to make to accommodate the irrigation pivot, then we can reserve the right to be able to allow those minor modifications. That would also allow, if in the event that there is a portion of irrigation acres that need to be maybe relocated, there might be the capability to relocate it within the existing agricultural parcel. And if that's the case, then we're not losing those irrigation acres. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you have the trusted administration to see that condition through with SMRID to make sure that we're having the least impact, and if there is an impact, that we coordinate with SMRD to keep it within the existing quarter section.
I agree with the intent of that. However, at this point in time, there is no other way to adequately irrigate that portion that's lost with the current pivot system that's in existence. While traditionally and this is what would happen with the agricultural parcel, the water rights, the number of acres of water rights would stay within that parcel. But I don't see any way of utilizing that at this current time. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to accept that proposal. Question to Amber, is it a live or die question to you that the trees stay within the
Yes.
acreage?
It is, yeah, because what I understood from SMERT is that the land, when I spoke to them a couple times on behalf of Ryan, they said that the trees wouldn't affect the land, like what my father-in-law paid for water rights covers the land, and the boom, because the boom mostly covers certain ends, they just watered the trees. So at times he'd shut them off, sometimes he kept them on. So that's why Ryan said if we could keep the trees, then that's good, because that's part of the yard. And the thing is first of all, my husband's the executor of the estate, and we had intentions of purchasing the land. However, because of the cost and because of the other beneficiaries, they don't want to keep the land. So that's why we went to the second option of a subdivision, so that if we could try to keep the yard and then sell the land, we could just retain the yard part. But knowing Ryan, he would like to keep the trees, and the renter right now that has been renting for approximately 20 years, he doesn't even put a crop into those trees. That's why when Adam Thompson came in with the surveying, he said, did you want to put a fence line in there if the subdivision is approved? And Ryan said yes, because then it would just make our yard a little more private from the land. So when they seed, they are approximately 8 to 10 feet away from those trees. And that just grew in like weeds and kind of grass, and then we just go with our tractor, our farm tractor, and we just mow it to keep it down.
Michelle?
I don't have a problem with them keeping the trees. I really don't. I don't think whoever owns the other piece isn't going to plant anything up there, so I'll move it.
Okay, Michelle moves approval of subdivision application 24/CY10 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so your subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will now mail you a copy of your subdivision approval. You're advised to begin working towards completing the necessary conditions and making arrangements to have the approved subdivided area surveyed if you have not already done so. You have 1 year from the subdivision's approval date to have met all the approval conditions and to have the surveyed plan submitted to Alberta Land Titles by your surveyor for the registration of the separate title. If you have any further questions, you may contact the planner to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
Okay, next, other business planners report. Any discussion, questions, concerns, issues?
Never nothing in Ward 3. Never nothing in Ward 3.
We'll try to include something next time.
Careful what you wish for.
You're right. Could get a campground.
Okay. You talking about your own?
Yeah.
Lloyd's Country Retreat? Do I see that coming in the future?
Oh, yeah.
Water slide?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Anything, no discussion? Okay, I'll accept the motion to approve it. Amanda moves approval of the planner's report as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Next meeting, Tuesday, October 8th. I hereby adjourn the meeting.